Raise your fists together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody. Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody, somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Well, the push is on, and we definitely have some work to do. Good morning. I'm Reverend William Hall. I'm the pastor of St. James Community Church, and I'm grateful to be with you. And I'm grateful for Rev Jackson, making space for myself and other young people to just simply share and to be a part of the movement. Today, we want to thank none other than Cardi B. Her heart and her generosity is beyond measure. Her generosity not only supported families in need, paid for funerals, but her presence alone has made the big difference. We want to show our love, we want to show our support to none other than Cardi B. Andre Talley, where would the world be if it was not for this fashion genius, a man draped in some of the finest linen, but most of all, who had a heart and an eye to see the good in all of humanity. Andre, we honor you and we celebrate your life. We know that even though you're not present in the body, your spirit will be seen on the pages of magazines and in the hearts and the lives of so many. Last but not least, Ferris Evans, the brother of none other than Reverend Dr. Clay Evans. We want to lift up his life and his legacy and also pray for his family, the Evans family, a true cornerstone and a foundation here in Chicago and beyond. And so we want you to know, to the Evans family, that we love you and we are here for you. And so listen, you all, we have an amazing time together here on the Saturday Forum. Before I go forward, I want you all to go back, look on YouTube. We want you to connect with us on YouTube. And also, we want you to stay tuned because these young people, well, they have something to share about the life, the legacy of Dr. King.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is without a doubt one of the most inspiring men of history. His life and legacy touched so many people, young and old, rich and poor, men and women, black and white.
His call for equality. He's the man for freedom.
And his message of love lives in the consciousness of anyone who has read his writings.
Ring in the heart of anyone who has heard him speak.
And echo in the souls of all who have heard him preach.
In life, he encouraged many people who were broken down and tried to use their faith to move mountains of racism, injustice, and inequality. In death, he has inspired us to rise out of our low statuses and to keep moving to higher heights, to keep on keeping on, and to keep moving forward.
If you can't fly, then run.
If you can't run, then walk.
If you can't walk, then crawl.
But whatever you do,
But whatever you do,
You have to keep moving forward. Keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward.
It won't matter so much how we get there, but that we get there. Closer and closer to realizing the truest and highest potential of humanity. To love one another and to esteem each other with the same unconditional love.
But what do you do when you love and they don't love you back? The same thing Dr. King did. What did Dr. King do? He kept moving forward.
When Dr. King was 3 years old, his best friend was a white boy. One day when they were 6, the boy told Dr. King that they couldn't be friends anymore. When Martin asked why, his friend said it was because he was black. Dr. King experienced racism, but he did not give up.
He kept moving forward.
Dr. King was 15 years old when he got accepted into Morehouse College after skipping 2 grades. He had to study hard to do well in college being so young. But when he encountered challenges studying while pursuing his education, he did not give up.
He kept moving forward.
Dr. King was a young pastor. Some people didn't believe that he was old enough to lead a church. But people didn't believe in him because of his age. He didn't give up either.
He kept moving forward.
Dr. King became an activist shortly after he moved to Montgomery. Some people did not think he was experienced enough to mobilize the citizens. He did not give up.
He kept moving forward.
Dr. King had a big family. He was a father and a husband. When he was fighting for us, he had to be away from them a lot. They missed him and wanted to see him in their lives, but he didn't give up.
He kept moving forward.
And we must do the same. Have you ever been in a position where you experienced discrimination? Have you ever been in a situation where people didn't believe in you and you felt like giving up?
I recall experiencing racism as a grade school student. A little white boy would attempt to touch my afro, and this was utterly annoying, disrespectful, and it felt like remnants of racism. I reported the matter to the teachers and the principals, and of course, they just claimed that the little white boy was just curious about my hair. They also said that they are fascinated about my perfectly manicured afro because they had never seen such well-shaped hair.
Keep moving forward.
In middle school, I had always noticed that when the girls had done something that seemed inappropriate or was disrespectful or insulting to somebody, the teachers would always just kind of let them slide by on it. They wouldn't really ever get reprimanded. But when the guys did something that was similar, and when the guys did something that was disrespectful or inappropriate, they never got to slide by. They always got reprimanded.
Continue d'avancer.
I was bullied. Not by a student, but by my teacher. Not by what I could do or what I couldn't do, but because of my skin color.
Zensi Tukakeru. I remember one time I was at my physician's office getting a routine checkup, and the doctor asked me,
"Hi, Chris. Did you eat breakfast this morning?"
"Yes, I did."
"What kind of cereal did you eat this morning?"
"I didn't eat cereal."
"But I thought you said you ate breakfast." "Oh, you must have ate Takis this morning."
This week in school, I was approached by one of my new friends, and we were talking about religion, and he asked me, "Rutherford, are you Christian?" And I said, "Yes, of course I am." And he said, "I don't believe in all that." And he used the S word.
Can you relate to any of the stories you just heard? Has anything like this happened to you before? No matter what kind of discrimination you experience, don't give up. You will make it if you keep moving forward.
What about the families who are unemployed and looking for ways to make money? What about the families who are struggling and the children inside them who have nowhere to do their homework?
Keep moving forward.
What about women who work just as hard as men and on the same jobs as men that get paid less than men?
Keep moving forward. What about the effects of segregation, unequal schools, unequal hospitals, unequal access to healthcare and technology?
Keep moving forward.
What about the children affected by joblessness and homelessness? The children who are hungry and don't have enough food to eat at home. What should they do?
Keep moving forward.
What about the people who are angry and frustrated because of police brutality and other kinds of mistreatment because of the color of one's skin?
Keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward, and you will get there. At your destination, you soon will arrive.
Whether crawling or walking or flying on wings, you'll get there. Just keep hope alive.
Keep moving forward, even if you are afraid, even if you are low to the ground.
Forward ever. Backward never.
Don't let anything turn you around.
And so just as I say, we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around. We aren't going to let any injunction turn us around.
I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't really matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place.
But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to just go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land.
I might not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land.
And so I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
What would Dr. King do?
We must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.
I want to thank our founder, our leader, the Rev Jackson. It is his vision that has caused us to get to this point. And so we just wanted to show you some small glimpse of Push for Excellence and what we are called to do and what we've been able to do. And with your help, we're going to do so much more. What do we want you to do? We want you to give your time. Some of you can volunteer to be mentors. We have a speed mentoring program where we ask corporate executives and corporate leaders to come and have a what we call speed mentoring, where you sit at a room on Zoom or in person with some of our young people and you tell them what does it take to move up in your corporation, what kind of positions are available. So we need some mentors, speed mentors, and it's online. You don't have to take away from too much of your time, but we need your time. Those of you who have benefited from Push Excel and Rainbow Push and the work that Rev Jackson has been able to do all these years, we need you to volunteer time. There's so much that we're trying to do. We have a stock market game. We teach our young people about investing. We're going to be talking about this new cryptocurrency. I know you don't know what it is. I'm just learning, but we're teaching our young people so they start at preschool thinking about investing in a future that they haven't yet seen but is yet to come. We have an oratorical society. Why? Because we want our young people to be able to communicate. Many of them will be congressmen and senators. They have to speak the language that is used around the world, and we want them to be able to use their voices to speak truth to power. And then we have a STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math. We're teaching coding. We want them to become digital architects. We want them to design and create new communities for us to live in and better places. It's also talking about medicine. We're in the midst of a pandemic. These young people will be those who will decide the cures for many of the diseases that we have taken for granted and kind of accepted. They are our future, they are our present. How do you help? You can give some treasuries, give your resources so that we can invest in these programs and these young people. We take hundreds of students on college tours. Why? Because you can't see what you can become until you see what's possible. When they go to those campuses and they can see themselves as professors and see themselves, what I need you to do is help us send children and take students on college tours. We need your resources to help. We're partnering with Hires 360 and labor and developers and prime contractors. They must invest in their next generation of workers. You need to go online to pushexcel.org, make your investment. You and I have a role to play. I'm so excited. I wish I could say more, but all I need you to do is to think about this. We give as much as we can, and as much as you give us, we can give to somebody else.
We're excited to get more people involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in impacting public policies, if you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, you can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. For an annual membership of $35, or if you're a student or senior, $15, you can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. How do you become a member? Visit our website at rainbowpush.org and press join. Or maybe you'd like to support us. You can text the word PUSH, that's P-U-S-H, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount you feel comfortable giving. You can also call us at 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
The images we just saw were recorded over a period of 60 years, from the 1960s to present day, yet the reasons for the calls to action remain stubbornly consistent.
Poverty, hollowed-out neighborhoods, underfunded schools, and substandard housing. The social injustices that drove people to the streets in the 60s continue to cripple communities of color.
Unemployment, disinvestment, violence. The need has never been more critical, and our communities have never paid a higher price for neglecting our young people. Hello, everyone. I'm Felicia Lawrence.
And I'm Josh Morris. So why hasn't much changed, and what was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision at the time he recognized change had to come?
Every year, we honor Dr. King with celebrations all over the country. This year, we want to focus on 55 years of his Northern Initiative, led by Rev Jackson from Operation Breadbasket to Rainbow Push Coalition. This effort was born from Dr. Martin Luther King's own vision of racial and economic parity, his commitment to addressing social injustice, ensuring access to safe, clean, and affordable housing, and making sure that every student has access to a high-quality public education. But when an assassin's bullet cut short Dr. King's young life, Rev Jackson made that vision his life's work.
One bullet cannot stop a movement, Rev Jackson said in the aftermath of King's assassination. That movement continues into the here and now. We honor the birth and legacy of Martin Luther King by recommitting to the work that remains unfinished.
But first, let's take a step back to see where Rainbow Push Coalition and its many forms got started. Here's Bill Curtis with more.
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and the Reverend Jesse Jackson were allies in the same war. Together they walked on the front lines of a battle for racial and economic equity. Dr. King understood that Northern racism was better hidden than the in-your-face bigotry of the South. But in practice, it was just as virulent and even more dangerous. The practice of redlining prevented minorities from living in certain neighborhoods or acquiring mortgages. In 1966, Dr. King moved his family into a deplorable Chicago Lawndale apartment, 1550 South Hamlin, a third-floor walk-up. Dr. King saw firsthand what it was like living in these conditions. He resolved to shed a light on substandard, unhealthy, and dangerous housing. Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. was a seminary student at Chicago Theological Seminary when Dr. King appointed him to lead Southern Christian Leadership Conference's Northern campaign, known as Operation Breadbasket. Operation Breadbasket was based on the principle, we must keep a slice of bread in the Black community by supporting Black-owned businesses and professionals. Operation Breadbasket became a crucial component of King's Chicago campaign, using picket lines and boycotts to force businesses located in Black neighborhoods to hire Black workers, use Black-owned banks, and stock Black products and brands on store shelves. In its first year, Operation Breadbasket, under Reverend Jackson's charismatic leadership, helped create 2,000 new jobs worth $15 million a year in new income to the Black community. King led marchers through segregated neighborhoods of Marquette Park and neighboring Gage Park to a real estate office to dramatize the need for desegregated housing in Chicago. Dr. King and the marchers were confronted by several thousand white counter-protesters, many of whom displayed Confederate flags and swastikas. They attacked the marchers with bricks, bottles, and cherry bombs while shouting racial insults. At this point, Dr. King was struck in the head with a brick. He said after the march,
"Well, this is a terrible thing. I've been in many demonstrations all across the South, but I can say that I have never seen, even in Mississippi and Alabama, mobs as hostile and as hate-filled as I've seen in Chicago."
3 years after the assassination of Dr. King, the fight continued on several fronts. By 1971, Jackson had broken away from the SCLC and established Operation Push, People United to Save Humanity, which later turned to People United to Serve Humanity. In 1975, Reverend Jackson would find an even more urgent mission, minority youth. He began Push for Excellence as a way to demand better schools and to give students the support and moral guidance to raise expectations for what they could be.
I am somebody. My mind is a pearl. I can learn anything.
Push Excel cast a wide net and built a coalition of like-minded social activists. They recruited students, parents, teachers, administrators, and churches, and together they held government officials accountable.
Down with dope. Up with hope. Nobody will save us from us, for us, but us. Right on.
By 1977, the vision was coming into fruition. The Los Angeles Board of Education awarded Push XL more than $400,000 to implement its programs to uplift, discipline, and give tough love. Their strategy worked then and
In our next segment, we'll see how Push Excel programs changed lives, empowered neighborhoods, and inspired generations of students.
Dr. King, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did and what we did and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
Welcome back as we explore the mission and future of Rainbow Push Coalition and Push for Excellence.
In order to better understand why these programs work, we need to get behind the scenes to see how Push Excel motivates and mobilizes young people and the communities around them.
Today at Virginia Union, for all of you young men, Stefan got accepted.
The first time a young person walks onto a college campus and suddenly feels that this could be their future, amazing things begin to happen. Horizons expand, self-confidence grows, and opportunities feel within grasp. For the past 21 years, Push Excel has sponsored tours for thousands of students to visit historically Black colleges and universities. These tours show young people what's possible, how to set their goals, and how to achieve them.
Dr. Martin Luther King, who Rev Jackson stands on the shoulders of, talked about education and its values. It's not only to educate folks, but also to uplift them and to teach them what is important.
So going downtown one day to speak, I saw children sitting over here, 2 girls on the steps smoking cigarettes, pregnant. Boys rolling dice, playing cards outside the principal's window. So, whoa, it's not enough to have opportunity. Let's have excellence, a commitment to break the cycle of mediocrity.
What he saw convinced him the fight had to move inside, into the classrooms, and into a community that had to demand better.
I am somebody. Excel. Right on.
Push Excel has to push children at every age in every school district. And then we have to have a multicultural platform.
It is possible, it is imperative that I learn. A teacher ought to say, I can teach. I ought to teach, I must teach. And thus we start with a very attitudinal premise. And we often say that it is not your aptitude, but your attitude that determines your altitude with a little intentional fortitude.
Push Excel was founded in 1975 to further MLK's vision for education. The goal was always to inspire, motivate, and educate while making sure that state, local, and federal funding would be there to make a quality education possible.
We're especially focused on our high school and college students, but our reach goes all the way back to K through 12.
Science, math, engineering, and technology creates jobs. It is based on contracts, and it's how the world is sustained. You know, everybody talks about the climate and how the environment is being polluted. Well, this generation of young people and the next one have to solve those problems.
We've got young people competing in robotics, which is just so amazing when you see some of the work that they've done. We've got young people with our oratorical contest as young as 6 years old. So while we basically focus on the college bound, we're also interested in the pathways and the pipeline to college.
College has historically been the key to economic freedom for all Americans. Yet a college degree is becoming less and less affordable for the average student in the U.S.
Push Excel is the education arm of Rainbow Push Coalition. And what Push Excel has done is not only provided scholarships for thousands of students, but also provided opportunities for them. We are fully engaged in the process of making educational opportunities available to young marginalized people.
Since Push Excel began its scholarship program, they have awarded over $10 million to deserving students enrolled in colleges and universities across the country. Push Excel scholars attend a variety of institutions, and 90% of them graduate from college. These scholarships include training in the trades. Not all students will want to go to college, and another of Push Excel's initiatives is to advocate for training at the high school level. The fundamental mission is to get the entire community to buy in: parents, students, educators, and churches, and mobilize them to get involved in the education and well-being of Black and minority children.
We have to make sure that children understand the purpose of education is to really live in humanity in a successful way.
Grow up in a rich neighborhood with a large property tax base, you get well-funded public schools. Grow up in a poor neighborhood, the opposite is true. Inadequate school funding derails the future for students already struggling against the odds, and we end up shortchanging not only the students, but ourselves as well.
It's been estimated that each additional high school graduate adds hundreds of thousands of dollars to the economy as they earn better wages and pay higher taxes. High school grads are more likely to be employed, less likely to enter the prison system, and will have lower costs for healthcare.
Everyone loves a story about a poor kid who beat the odds and managed to get into a great school, but we should be asking ourselves, why do we allow it to be such a rare thing?
When we come back, we'll talk to people whose lives have been transformed by Push Excel programs and the power of the people who believed in them.
Join the movement, join Rainbow Push. You know?
One final thing we want to share with you. We have a number of new programs, as I started to say, that we're going to launch in 2022. Everybody talks about critical race theory. What it is inclusion of all Americans in history and social studies as we talk about American history and American social studies. There's a role that every ethnic group played in this melting pot. And so we want you to know that we're partnering with Virtual Learning Systems to launch the first ever virtual African American curriculum. I know you've heard about 1619. It's powerful. We have a curriculum that goes from middle school through high school to teach our children how they fit, and they become the archaeologists and discover what happened before 1619 on the continent of Africa. They will learn about our struggle for rights in this country. And so I'm just telling you a little bit of what we're doing because some of you don't know what we're doing. I know you now know because you watched the video, but I want you to be a part of those who say, I'm investing in excellence, and we're pushing for excellence. Pushing for you is what we do absolutely best.
Rev Jackson has a saying, if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, you can achieve it. The people you are about to meet are proof of the power of that statement. They come from all walks of life, including some of the most disadvantaged circumstances. But they have one thing in common. Their destiny was changed by people who believed in them until they could believe in themselves.
My name is Lauren Cotton. I'm a senior mechanical engineering major and I attend Tuskegee University. And this year I am a Rainbow Push STEM Scholar.
It's a tremendous honor to be able to receive the scholarship and to have a scholarship associated with Rev Jackson. It's complete. It's really amazing, and it's benefited me these past few years tremendously academically.
That scholarship helped me to get the position I'm at today. It helped me to network. It helped me to not only advocate for myself, but advocate for leaders that are coming after me. I'm now volunteering here, so I'm paying it forward just to make sure that if I have a connection, the fellow behind me has a connection as well.
And I hope that you all continue to do great things, pushing those students who do not have much, but who have the power to do so much. So thank you so much, and I look forward to helping and giving back when I can.
The connection between Dr. King, Rev Jackson, and education are inextricably intertwined. Dr. King, as a young man, as a 16-year-old, in the Morehouse newspaper, wrote about the importance of education and actually scolded those who are bigoted about their lack of access to education. Rev Jackson's first arrest was when he attempted to go to a library to check out a book, and they told him no. So we pass the baton on, and therefore we basically embrace and affirm the importance of education for young Black students, both of whom, Reverend Jackson and Dr. King, were young people when they were ignited both by their passion for justice and their passion for equal education.
I look back and I see some people whose lives have been touched. Barack Obama told me one day, he said, we was downtown eating. He said, you know, not you debated hard in Mondale. I said, I was a student at Columbia. I said, this can happen. He became president. So to me, it's all about sowing seeds, trying to set the pace for the race.
Every one of these success stories sends out ripples through our city and our culture. When we come back, we'll see how Push Excel is moving Dr. King's vision forward in a time of critical need. One example is Judge Greg Mathis. Reverend Jackson met Judge Mathis while visiting a Michigan County jail where he went from jailship to judge.
We are sanctuary. We are a sanctuary.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children. Don't get in. Shut it down. If we don't get in, shut it down.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution. Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope alive. Alive. Keep hope alive. Alive.
Make sure you join Operation Push, Rainbow Push, today.
Keep hope alive.
Today you know me as Judge Mathis, television judge for over 23 years, but I haven't always been that. My career started as a street youth and a high school dropout, but thank God for Push Excel. It was Reverend Jackson and his voice of I Am Somebody that convinced me that I could change my life and turn toward working for our community. It is then that I approached Reverend Jackson and told him I wanted to work for our people. He advised me that I had no weapons to work with. And so he told me if I went to college, got out of jail, when I came back, I could work for him. Certainly, he kept his word, because 5 years later, after having been released from jail, going to college, and then having my record expunged, he allowed me to work with him. And I've done that work for him over 3 decades. And Push Excel is where it all started. Indeed, Reverend Jackson mentored me every step of the way, helping me to become elected as the youngest judge in Detroit and in Michigan history 15 years after leaving jail on his advice and his inspiration.
The people who work with Push Excel have seen what can go wrong in our neighborhoods and the many ways the structure of our educational system fails our young people.
But they've also seen what goes right. The future of our country is in our classrooms now. They are the brainpower and possibilities that could change the world.
Push Excel is committed and actively involved in an attempt to shape America's education agenda by involving parents, students, community members, and educators in informing policy at the local, state, and federal levels.
There's so many young people, especially in the age of COVID, who don't have equal education, who don't have opportunities to learn, who, because of a lack of access to the internet, don't have the opportunities they need to keep up with their lessons. Push Excel is an advocate for all of that. We are advocates for truth, for justice, and for equal education.
Push Excel launched its STEM Enrichment Academy in 2011 in partnership with tech leaders. They built a Saturday program with a curriculum that includes web design, app design, robotics, coding, building video games, and the mechanics of flying drones. Students who are part of the Push Excel programs show improved grades and test scores in math and science. And now Push Excel is launching a supplemental social studies curriculum, a more in-depth, accurate, and genuine depiction of the role African Americans have played in our global history.
I am somebody.
Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Push Excel staff have launched an educational movement to give students a sense of somebodyness. Somebody who has a discipline to stay away from gangs and drugs and focus on learning. Somebody who is part of the solution. Push Excel hosts rallies in schools across the nation, asking students to repeat a number of recitals like,
Down with dope, up with hope, my mind is a pearl. I can learn anything in the world.
Push Excel, in our attempt to shape America's public education agenda, are actively involved in doing so by hosting national town hall discussions where we have the aforementioned persons involved in forming important discussions that we have about how to make sure that public education does not remain under attack. But more importantly, those national town hall discussions, which we host regularly, virtually, are hosted for the purpose of making sure that we gain information from ultimate stakeholders about what those policies should actually look like.
In the words of Reverend Jackson, it's time to reclaim our youth, instill values, provide them with leadership and discipline so they can set and achieve high goals.
My soul is caught up in doing what I do. I thank God for allowing me to be able to serve this long distance run, and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
I think that we have to get the Push Excel ideology in every public school district in America. Teachers have to have high expectations. Parents must dream beyond what they can afford to push their children to something better.
We have this song, I believe that children are the future. We sing it everywhere, but do we really believe it? We at Push Excel believe it, but we need partners to achieve it.
When I reflect on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the living legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson, I can't help but to be reminded of the sacrifices that they made for those of us who are here today, who have many more resources and much more access than they did, and yet they've made a difference. And I think we have a fundamental obligation to take that torch and run as fast as we can with it.
If it wasn't for Dr. King and Reverend Jackson fighting for education, civil rights, and economic stability in Black communities, I would not have been able to grow up in the neighborhood I did, attend the school of my choice, or enjoy the diversity that I did in the classroom. I'm loving my career choice and the fact that I had choices.
I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to the people who paved the way, that made dreams come true.
You can support more of the dream by contacting Push Excel.
Thank you so much for joining us and helping to make a better future today and for generations to come.
Thank you.
Welcome to this week's Due Process. I'm Todd Yeary. This week marked the one-year anniversary of the Biden-Harris administration, 1 year removed from the tumultuous 4 years that preceded their inauguration, and on the heels of the drama of January 6th, the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, and the revolution at the ballot box in Georgia, the first year of the term of the 46th President of the United States and the 49th Vice President of the United States has been a mixed bag. The deployment of almost $2 trillion to local governments and states in response to the economic damage of the COVID pandemic was the initial response to getting the nation back on track. However, the multi-issue priorities of voting rights protections, police reform in response to police killings in the country, and the need for an infrastructure plan to address deficits in the national physical plant and broadband limitations were met with immediate resistance from the Republican Party and intra-party disloyalty from Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Much of the administration's bandwidth has been bogged down in sluggish response to COVID variant resurges and late engagement by the president to get positive traction on legislative proposals that many felt would be the hallmark of his legacy. Instead, We are still at an impasse on voting rights and police reform, with key congressional races on the horizon in the face of strong headwinds caused by voter suppression laws passed in states across the country. One area of success for the president has been the appointments of federal judges that promote diversity and ability that counters many of the subpar appointments made by President Biden's predecessor. However, the one Achilles heel for the Biden-Harris administration remains to be immigration. With the horrors of the treatment of Haitian migrants seeking asylum and the abysmal conditions in the Torrance County, New Mexico detention facility, the privately run facility that failed its annual inspection and continues to be an issue of great concern as it relates to potential human rights violations among the migrants, these issues remain to be of great concern. Meanwhile, the first year ultimately comes down to two primary issues: filibuster reform and voting rights legislation. On Tuesday, the Senate failed to move on either important issue, with both votes failing, much to the dismay of many who have lobbied, rallied, protested, and marched for several months to encourage the Senate to take action. The filibuster vote failed 52-48, with Senators Manchin and Sinema voting with the Republican caucus, while the voting rights bill failed 51-49 after Majority Leader Schumer changed his vote to be able to use a procedural tool to ask for reconsideration of the bill. However, the issue for many is a strategy that has been framed too narrowly and has allowed the entire Republican caucus to skate in obscurity, while the Democratic Party has a food fight at the family table. Here's what I mean. The vote this week only confirms the hypocrisy of the Senate when compared to the vote to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act in 2006. In 2006, Senators McConnell, Grassley, Shelby, Crapo, Collins, Burr, Inhofe, Graham, Thune, Cornyn, Blackburn, Blunt, Boozman, Capito, Moran, and Wicker voted for the reauthorization. This week, they stood in lockstep to quell the demand for access to the ballot box in a stunning display of public hypocrisy. Senator McConnell, in his 2006 remarks, championed the reauthorization as he stated then, and I quote, "This is a good piece of legislation which has served an important purpose over many years." He went on to say, "And this landmark piece of legislation will continue to make a difference, not only in the South, but for all of America and for all of us, whether we are African American or not," end quote. Clearly, Mitch has either lost his nerve or lost his mind, as he is now the leader of the resistance. While there has been much discussion about Manchin and Sinema, not enough has been said about the others who stand between the ultimate right of citizenship, the right to vote, and the current state of suppressive politics in many states around the country. What's next, you may ask? Well, we must keep the pressure on. We must keep the pressure on all 100 senators. It is not enough to check the box on a vote and say, "Oh, well, we tried." We must channel the spirit of resistance of our ancestors who confronted arbitrary tests to guess jelly beans in a jar and bubbles in a bar of soap to continue to demand uninhibited access to vote. We will not back down, and we will not be dismayed nor distracted. We are, and we will be, determined to press all the members of the Senate so that they know that we can count and we can read, and they must own their words and defend their actions, all of them. But we will not back down. We will step up until we win this fight, and this fight we will win. This next story highlights the difficulties of Black economic institutions to remain viable against tremendous odds. One such story is the story of North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company. The 123-year-old institution headquartered in Durham, North Carolina, has been a safe haven of sorts for Black Americans to buy insurance, create wealth, and generate venture capital that helped start many Black businesses. Founded in 1898, the Mutual, as it's called, was the facilitator of economic access for the working class and the intellectual class of Black people. The company sold small dollar policies that provided death benefits sufficient for a dignified burial. The pool of premiums were often leveraged to generate other streams of revenue, including investing in Black banks, investment firms, churches, real estate investment companies, hospitals, schools, charitable organizations, and factories. Able to thrive during some of the most difficult economic periods in the country, including the Great Depression, North Carolina Mutual became the largest Black-owned insurance company in the world with nearly $8 billion of policy value in force in the late 1980s. This allowed the company to provide jobs for local residents, including me when I worked as a security guard in the company during the summer after my first year of college. However, the decline in Black insurance carriers left North Carolina Mutual with little distribution of premium risk, eventually seeing the premiums for Black firms declining while white firms saw premiums increase. As Henry McCoy has written, North Carolina Mutual's best years were in the rearview mirror by 2000 as its size paled in comparison to larger white insurance companies like AIG. And after the company took a significant multi-million-dollar loss that led to litigation with little recovery, North Carolina Mutual could not get what other companies got, a bailout. The Black insurance giant that had played such a significant role in Black wealth building was not too big to fail. Housed in what was once the tallest building in the Durham skyline, the pending closure of the company that gave spirit and presence to Durham and resource power to other parts of Black America will leave just a remnant of what once was. But also it will stand as a reminder of what we must do: support Black business, help build Black wealth, and invest in opportunities that help people sow the seed of entrepreneurial genius for future generations to behold. Durham, home to the North Carolina version of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, will lose an icon. We will all lose a key partner in wealth building. Let us not forget what was done here over the years and promise to protect and invest in those businesses that open the door to opportunity for so many across the country. Today, we mourn the loss of three people who meant so much to so many. We honor the memory of Andre Leon Talley, the fashion icon and former editor of Vogue who died this week at the age of 73. The Washington-born, Durham-raised child of the South, Talley graduated from the historic Hillside High School in Durham before attending North Carolina Central University as a French major, where he graduated in 1970. And he went on to earn a master's degree in French literature from Brown University. He moved to New York City, where he began to build relationships with key figures in the fashion industry, among them Andy Warhol, Karl Lagerfeld, and Diana Vreeland, who was then editor of Vogue. He began working for Vogue in 1983 as fashion editor, later becoming editor-at-large in 1998 after a stint working in France. A mainstay at the iconic Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem, Andre Leon Talley was a man of deep faith, quiet privacy, and great gift. His presence and his fashion touch will be missed. We also mourn the death of the queen of basketball, Lucia Harris, who died this week at the age of 66. A tremendous basketball talent, she holds the distinction of being the only woman drafted by the NBA and the first black woman inducted in the Basketball Hall of Fame. As a college player, Harris led the Delta State University women's basketball team to 3 national championship titles. Standing 6'3" tall and 185 pounds, she averaged almost 26 points and 14 rebounds per game in college. She also played on the very first USA women's basketball team in 1976, leading that squad to a silver medal in Montreal. The Mississippi native passed away in a therapy center there. Her impact on the game of basketball for women and men must forever be told as a source of great pride for all of us. Finally, we join the chorus of sorors of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated in mourning the passing of the organization's 27th national president, Cheryl Hickman. The Hartford, Connecticut native was elected president of Delta in November of last year. She was initiated into the sorority at South Carolina State University and worked as a licensed reproductive technologist for more than 30 years. Her passing after a brief illness comes as a shock to not only her sorors, but the entire family of the Divine Nine organizations. Both the governor and lieutenant governor of Connecticut acknowledged Sister Hickman's life of commitment and her service as they too addressed the sad news. Our hearts go out to all the sisters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated during this time of remembrance and loss. Rev Jesse Jackson and the entire Rainbow Push Coalition family send our prayers to the families and friends of Andre Leon Talley, Lucia Harris, and President Cheryl Hickman. We send good thoughts and prayers for comfort as we all celebrate the gifts that these 3 tremendous persons have been and will forever be in our hearts and minds. May they all rest in eternal peace. That's this week's Due Process. I'm Todd Ewing.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring me closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement.